dark, solid state and tube timber, as well as
It's noticeable to me that when I use a 4K mouse, it just feels more responsive.
you can go as fast as you can without trying to go on. Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're talking about the Vision Airs EXT, which I have here as part of a Vision Airs talk, along with the Vision Airs Phoenix, which we will talk about in another video. So for some quick background into Vision Airs, they are a small German manufacturer of high-end IEMs, and they've made quite a few different models up until now. A lot of them have been pretty successful as well. They have recently released their newest flagship in collaboration with Astel and Kern, and that one is called the Aura, which I actually had the pleasure of listening to yesterday. And just a quick note, Aura was great, it sounded like an adjusted Phoenix. Meanwhile, the EXT here is one of their premium top-of-the-line models with the intention of being a fun tuning. So now one thing to make a quick note of is that because this is a demo tool unit, the packaging isn't actually what a retail unit would be, and that the retail unit is far more impressive, a luxurious unboxing experience. Instead, with this one, it simply comes in a cardboard box from Vision Airs, which isn't all that impressive. It's just a well-designed simple aesthetic with a Vision Airs logo printing on the top and an EXT plate in the front here. Now inside, you have an IEM carry case. This specific carry case would actually come with the retail unit. Inside the carry case are the IEMs, stock cable, as well as the Vision Airs leather pouch to hold them in. So I just want to take a quick moment to appreciate the machining of this case. It's just simply amazing. Precision German engineering at its finest. The build quality, in-hand feel, machining of the case itself is by far the most premium case I have ever felt. While there are also high quality leather pouches out there, leather carry cases, this thing is on another level in its own right. Like, these grooves are perfectly smoothened out. Even the lid and the case itself, when you screw it on, I cannot screw this on. Anyway, take two. Even the lid and the case itself, after you screw it on, is seamlessly machined to fit. Like, this whole thing is just excellent. I wish we could get more of these cases for other IEMs. The metallic purple color is also magnificent. My favorite color is darker purple, just so you all know. Now moving on to the build quality of the actual IEMs itself. It has that same metallic purple machining on the faceplate here. The build quality is just like the case, it's very good. The stock cable here is actually quite decent. Now, it can get a little tangly at some times, but the overall ergonomics and softness of the cable is quite good for a stock cable. Now, I like thick, chunky boys. I like them big. I like them chunky. I like them big. But for the most, this will be great. Another thing that VE has done quite well is that the IEM itself is much smaller and lighter than I thought it would be. The same also applies for the Phoenix. So fit and comfortability is no question at all. It's quite flat, as you can see, unlike most other IEMs being made these days in order to cram drivers in. Now, speaking of drivers, the EXT here is 2 dynamic drivers, one for bass, one for mids, and also 4 electrostat drivers for the highs. Now, it's quite an interesting setup with no balanced armatures, given that everyone likes to use balanced armatures these days. Now, moving on to the sonic aspects. The EXT is a fun-tuned, engagement-focused IEM. The tuning is quite U-shaped. It has delicious bass and quite a bit of air in the uppers. It's very suited for general electronic music and pop, but it is a bit of a one-trick pony, just being fun, focused, and energetic, and it gets a little bit boring after the short while of fun and engagement once that wears off. So moving into bass, this is probably the best part of this IEM. The bass on the EXT is straight delicious. While the sub bass rumbles hard, it isn't actually as good of a sub bass extension as some of the other IEMs that I've heard out there. They can do rumbling better, such as the Fur Xenon 6 or Radon 6, otherwise the Maestro series from Fatfreak. The mid bass is where this truly shines. The EXT has extremely nice, thick, meaty, visceral impact on the mid bass, and I like it thick and meaty. What? You can truly feel this thing slap hard. What the fuck? Like, God, this mid-bass alone makes me want to get one of these just to blast mid-bass heavy electronic music. Hardstyle, EDM, the EXT has got you. Bass head approved. Mids are where the EXT falls short, but this isn't actually a particular focus for this IEM either. Unfortunately, starting from the lower mids, there is quite a bit of bass bloat. Piano, cello, or other string instruments, for example, are far more bassy than they should be. There's a bit too much weight and vibration that you can feel, which you shouldn't actually be feeling. Now, timbre isn't the best either, and the general mid-range tonality suffers a bit. Vocals, which are already recorded on the lower, warmer side of things, tend to become a little bit muddy and unclear to listen to. For example, if you guys know Khaled, some of his music, where he's practically just half mumbling, becomes, well, fully mumbling. Now, I don't really recommend this if you are searching for a nice mids-focused IEM. However, it was never the intention of the EXT to be focused for mids. That's the Phoenix's job. So if you do enjoy a nice weighty listen, this could still be good. There is also a slight upper mid recession, so there isn't as much attack and bite on the vocals or snare drums. Treble on the EXT though is then surprisingly good. Those EST drivers are really working. Percussion rendering is excellent, and you can hear all the ticking, tambourine, shakers, and just general metallic type sounds in tracks. However, once again, it really suits electronic tracks that thrive on bass and treble. Surprisingly, it never gets sibilant or fatiguing, and it has a nice crisp sound to it. Now, I can definitely notice mid-treble boost, and that sometimes sounds get a bit sharp, but the difference is, the sharpness never really feels like glare, and it gives me pain. It's high-pitched, sharp sounds, but I can somehow just tolerate and sit through it. It doesn't bother me. Otherwise, I really do enjoy the ticking, the tambourine, and the shaking sounds, and all those things around me in electronic music. Now, resolution on the EXT is okay. That's about all that I can say. It definitely resolves well enough for a high-end IEM, but it's nowhere near the top dogs, and certainly isn't worth its price in this specific technical category. Now, it might initially sound detailed due to those ESTs and certain treble boost regions, giving you that perceived sense of detail, but the driver capability from using those two dynamics only really does suffer in some areas of true resolution. Needless to say, it doesn't throw a lot of detail at you either. Separation is only okay at best as well. Unfortunately, the lower region tuning, as well as the inherently slower dynamic drivers, can cause sounds to be not completely well defined and separated. You can hear there is detail in the background, but you can never really zone in and focus on it due to being overpowered by other sounds. On the flip side though, it does give that quite a full sound and musical presentation, as people like to call it, because there isn't as much space between all the different things happening. Now, speed and dynamics are something we will need to touch on here. Firstly, in regards to speed, do want to touch on coherency, which isn't something I often talk about, but it does need a quick mention here for the EXT. Now, you might be wondering, what is coherency? Well, when you have a multi-driver setup in an IEM, the inherent characteristics of each driver are different. For example, you might hear people talk about dynamic driver bass versus BA bass, which is generally given a negative connotation, or EST treble good, and things like that. What you also need to know, however, is that the speed of each driver is different, and within IEMs, dynamic drivers are usually by far the slowest and least clean driver. BAs are in the middle, and electrostats being the fastest and cleanest driver type. So what happens when you combine only dynamics with ESTs? Well, you might have guessed it. You put one thing that's really slow with one thing that's really fast, and therefore sounds can sound a bit incoherent. The ESTs start and stop too fast, while the dynamic driver sounds are still just lingering. Now, for the most part, if you're not a listener who goes around nitpicking everything, you probably won't notice as much of a difference, and in any case, it will still sound okay. However, in the case of being nitpicky when listening to the EXT, you can notice that the electrostat highs is sometimes too fast when compared to the bass and mids of the track. This further adds to making the bass and lower mids feel overwhelming, because the EST is working the high-pitched sounds too fast, and then all of a sudden you're left with only the bass and the lower mids hitting. Now, whether you can hear any coherency issues, or if it's a deal breaker or not, is solely up to you, the listener. You'll have to listen to it yourself and to decide for yourself. Personally though, I don't particularly mind, given the use case for this IEM would be listening to bass heavy music anyway, so I don't particularly mind if I don't have enough highs to balance it out. I'm just listening for the bass. Dynamics, however, are great. Now, while the speed isn't necessarily the fastest thing, the overall tuning and dynamic volume contrast between quieter and softer sounds are really good. The IEM gets you toe tapping, head bopping like no tomorrow on fast-paced music. Positional audio, gaming, that kind of stuff isn't good, and I definitely wouldn't recommend this for competitive gaming, whereas it could be quite epic if you played single-player games. Now, unfortunately, there's too much lower region for competitive FPS. Gunshots, explosions, footsteps, the crying sounds of your teammates.
Revive me, Jet! Revive me! Jet! Jet! You can now use your ult, Jet! Please revive me!
Become overwhelmingly boomy. In addition, the separation isn't the best to differentiate between all the sounds that are happening. Single player games, however, especially those that are lower region focused OSTs when you engage in a final boss fight. Can be pretty grand and spectacular. Regarding comparisons, I'm going to skip this part for now. Why? Because I can't really think of an IEM that I'm both familiar with and is similar enough to this to be compared. However, I'm always happy to answer specific comparisons that you may have in mind if you just leave a comment below or join the Discord and ask me there. So in the future, when I review other gear similar to the EXT, I'll mention the EXT as a comparison in those videos, so stay tuned for future IEM videos. Now, once again, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the Vision Airs tour for letting me try this IEM. I did not know what to expect when I got this in, and I'm pleasantly surprised by the EXT. It really satisfied that part of me which was missing impactful bass. I wanted some head bopping, I wanted that engagement, I haven't had that in a while, and this really filled that spot. So I look forward to seeing what else Vision Airs can cook up in the future. Hopefully an Aura tour unit will come around sometime in the future as well. See you guys in the next video.